welcome back to another video. My name's Becky, this is Let's Talk About Mental Health, and today I'm going to do my second movie review / reaction video. So I did the first one and that got copyright striked, so I put it on to Daily Motion instead, so if you want to check that out, I'll put a link below. That would be amazing, thank you. It's in 2 parts because they have like a limit on how long a video can be. So have a look. Yeah, apparently it's funny, so I hope you enjoy it if you do look at it. And so yeah, today is The House on Haunted Hill. So let's just give it a go and crack on with it, I think. Me waking up. No. That's a mood if I ever heard one. How?
The ghosts are moving tonight, restless.
Oh, really?
Hungry. May I introduce myself?
Of course.
I'm Watson Pritchard.
Hi, Watson Bridget.
In just a minute, I'll show you the only really haunted house in the world.
Okay.
Since it was built a century ago, 7 people, including my brother, have been murdered in it. Since then, I've owned the house. I've only spent one night there, and when they found me in the morning, I was almost dead.
Sounds like my accent's flat.
I'm Frederick Loren, and I've rented the house on Haunted Hill tonight so that my wife can give a party.
A party?
A haunted house party. She's so amusing. There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited. If any of you will spend the next 12 hours in this house, I'll give you each $10,000. Or your next of kin in case you don't survive. Ah, but here come our other guests.
The floating heads are a little
It was
creepy.
my wife's idea to have our guests come in funeral cars. She's so amusing.
Stop saying
Her
that.
sense of humor is, shall we say, original. I dreamed up the hearse. It's empty now, but after a night in the house on Haunted Hill, who knows? This is Lance Schroeder, a test pilot, so no doubt a brave man. But don't you think you can be much braver if you're paid for it? And I happen to know that Lance needs the $10,000 I'll give him, if he's brave enough to stay all night. This is Ruth Bridges. You've no doubt read her column in the newspapers. She says her reason for coming to the party is to write a feature article on ghosts. She's also desperate for money.
She's got a hidden motive, I bet you.
You've already met Watson Pritchard, a man living in mortal fear of a house, and yet he is risking his life to spend another night here. I wonder why. He says for money. This is Dr. David Trent, a psychiatrist. He claims that my ghost will help his work on hysteria. But don't you see a little touch of greed there? Around the mouth and eyes.
That's a doctor for you.
This is Nora Manning. I picked her from the thousands of people who work for me because she needed the $10,000 more than most. Supports her whole family. Isn't she pretty?
It's a weird looking building, I'll give it that. I tell you what, these old films did a great job of using lighting and shadow to make things look creepy. I think we don't use that so much these days in videos or whatever, horror movies. It's, yeah, they use shadows and that to hide things or like do something creepy. But the way they use like the lights in the olden days was just better in my opinion. Okay, so at this point, everyone introduces themselves to each other, they all say hello, they say their names, and then it turns out that no one that has been invited to this party actually knows the host. They may work for him, they may be a friend of a friend, but none of them have actually met the guy personally yet, so that's an interesting thing to keep track of. We'll see where that goes.
A $50,000 party for only 5 people is a little steep even for a millionaire.
Well, if I were going to haunt anybody, this would certainly be the house I'd...
Who closed the door?
Here it goes. Please land on him.
This thing's made of solid
Hitman
steel.
style. She wasn't going to get hit by that either way. Oh, he's creepy as fuck. Just watching and then walking away. Little peeping Tomish, isn't it?
Annabelle, our guests are here, unfortunately still alive. Is your face on yet?
Dust and dirt everywhere, and the water barely trickles. Couldn't you have had the place clean?
Atmosphere, darling. You know how ghosts are. They never tidy up. And that's a very fetching outfit, but hardly suitable for a party.
I'm not going to the party.
The spend-the-night ghost party was your idea, remember? Since it's going to cost me $50,000, I want you to have fun.
The party was my idea until you invited all the guests. Why all these strangers? Why none of our friends?
Friends? Do we have any friends?
No, your jealousy took care of that.
I had a reason for inviting each guest. I wanted kind of a cross-section. From psychiatrist to typist, and from drunk to jet pilot. They share one thing. They all need money. Now let's see if they're brave enough to earn it.
And you call this a party?
Could be.
He is really off-putting.
Why do you always do that? It spoils the champagne.
It might explode.
Never does.
Would you guarantee that?
Creepy.
That isn't funny, Frederick.
Make a good headline. Playboy kills wife with champagne cork. Will you join me?
No, thank you.
Just a sip might improve your humor.
My humor is fine, thanks. And I haven't poisoned it.
When she said, and I didn't poison it, that's like when people say, oh, you can trust me. Or, honestly, believe me, because the moment they say that, they become 100% less believable, and you wonder why they're saying it. Trustworthy people don't have to tell you they're trustworthy, they just do it. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit, yeah, whatever.
Your trust is so touching. And I'm not going to the party.
Of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
But still alive.
Would you go away for $1 million, tax-free? You want it all, don't you?
I deserve it all.
You'll slip up one of these days.
Think so?
If I live long enough. You remember the fun we had when you poisoned me?
Something you ate, the doctor said.
Yes. Arsenic on the rocks. Annabelle.
I'll
You'd do
change
it
something.
again if you thought you could get away with it, wouldn't you?
Darling, what makes you think that?
Something about you.
Why is he dating her then?
I hear that hanging is very uncomfortable, in case you get any more ideas. And don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, the only ghoul in the house is you.
And don't sit up all night thinking of ways to get rid of me. It makes wrinkles.
Their relationship is messed up.
This is what she used on my brother and her sister. Hacked them to pieces. We found parts of the bodies all over the house. In places you wouldn't think. The funny thing is the heads have never been found. Hands and feet and things like that. But no heads.
So in this part, the host starts explaining the rules to the party. Basically, the caretakers of the building leave at midnight. They'll lock them in until the morning in 8 a.m. Once the door is locked, there's no other way out. There's bars on the windows, and he says that they are so solid a jail will be proud of them. Not only do the bars have windows, the windows have bars on, the only door to the outside, he says, is like a vault once it's locked. There's no electricity, no phone, and no neighbours within miles, so basically, if they need something, they're screwed.
So, if any of you decide not to stay for the party, you must let me know before midnight. Of course, if you leave, I shan't be able to pay you anything.
I'm interested in your reasons for this, party.
Touché.
Aside from pleasant company.
Ghosts, Doctor. I think everyone wonders what they would do if they saw a ghost. And now my wife has given us all the opportunity to find out.
Amusing. Ghosts, etc., being only creations of hysteria, your party should be a success.
Well, Pritchard here promises us genuine ghosts.
7 now. Maybe more before morning.
That's cheerful.
4 men have been murdered in this house. And 3 women.
You preach
Planned
it.
your party very well, Mr. Loren. 4 of us are men, 3 are women. Well, a ghost for everybody.
And Pritchard, why don't you take us on a tour through the house and let's see what happens.
He drank that quickly. I'm guessing he's the drunk.
See that stain? Blood. A young girl was killed here. And whatever got her wasn't human. Don't stand there. What do you mean? Where?
Ew. How is that happening? It's dry.
It's too late. They've marked you.
Ridiculous. The roof probably leaks.
Oh, that must be what it is. Who would want to haunt me?
I would say any self-respecting male ghost.
I hope it doesn't come back.
Well, Mr. Pritchard, you're the life of the party.
He hasn't even started yet. Wasn't there a man who threw his wife into a wine vat or something?
That was in the cellar. There's been a murder almost every place in this house.
Okay, so now the drunk guy, who seems to know a lot about the building and the history of all the murders because his brother was one of the people that was killed, for example, he starts telling the story of a guy who lived there with his wife called Mr. Horton. He used to create his own wines in the cellar. His wife said they were rubbish, so he killed her. He basically threw her into a vat of acid, hoping that she would completely disappear and the murder would be, completely hidden, but only her bones remained. They rose to the top. The guy then also mentions that all of the murders in the house were not your standard just a shooting or just a stabbing. They were all very violent, they were all quite elaborate. And then Nora nearly falls in, but she's caught in time, and then he goes on to state that's very lucky because there's still acid in the vat. Remember that, guys.
Come on.
Okay, so now this guy starts to ask her what she knows, what she was told about the party, how she knows the guy. She starts to explain that her supervisor told her she'd been invited and that her supervisor's boss is this guy. They both note that neither of them were told anything about being locked in. They say, though, that the money is completely worth it. The man says he doesn't believe in ghosts and asks her what she thinks, and she says she isn't quite sure. They walk away, and then they walk around the cellar, kind of look around. They note how many doors there are. They start to open them and look in and have a look. They find the closet first, then they find a load of bottles of wine, and then this happens.
Does it go anywhere?
Yay, I want the door to slam behind him.
Jason! Jason! Jason!
a floating head again? Oh, just a woman, casually disappearing back into the dark. Everyone seems very bothered about Lance, considering they just met him 10 minutes ago.
We'll have to break it down and stop.
If I met a group and someone says Lance is missing, I'd be like, who's Lance? That's my shitty memory though, to be fair.
You all right? Nothing that money won't cure. I must have bumped my head.
And the only way you could bump your head in here is to run head on into the wall. You didn't do that, did you? Let's get a bandage on that.
I wonder why they didn't kill him.
Who?
He didn't bump his head. They hit him.
They?
So right now, the host and the psychiatrist are asking Nora about the ghosts, and she says that it was wearing a black thing that went all the way to the floor when they ask what it looked like. The psychiatrist then asks her if she was frightened, and naturally she replies, yes. And he says, well, that, Mr. Landon, is hysteria. And then he says, the host says, well, was what happened to Lance hysteria too? So then, obviously, bit of a question, what's really happening? And then just as the doctor and the host leave, Lance then whispers to Nora to wait for him in the hall.
You really believe in your pet ghost, don't you, Pritchard?
Before the night's over, you will, too.
Someone or something was in here when I came in. Where? And if the door was locked, how did it get out? What you saw might have been a ghost, Nora, but what was in here with me was no ghost.
And now, basically, Lance and Nora sneak out together, and they go back to the cellar, and they investigate the room that Lance was knocked out in. They come to realise that if they knock on certain parts of the wall, it sounds hollow, and then they measure the space between the rooms and notice that there's a gap of about 3 foot in between the rooms. So there's only accounted for space, and then this happens. Is that meant to be scary? Oh, it's brilliant.
I saw it again.
Where'd it come from?
From in here.
What if it ran out of here? I'd have seen it.
Lance, it doesn't run, it just floats.
Yeah, but why didn't I see it?
You don't believe me.
Well, how can I?
I'm Annabelle Loren. You must be Miss Manning. I realize this is a very unusual and I'm afraid very dull party. Wouldn't you like to freshen up?
Now at this point, Annabelle Laurel, the housewife, meets Nora. They walk to her room and she introduces herself, and then she starts asking her some questions. First one is, why has her husband invited her? She says she doesn't know. Nora says she doesn't know. Her supervisor just told her she was invited. Then Annabelle kind of seems a little jealous and suspicious, and then asks her questions about how she knows her husband. Have they ever met before? How long have they known each other? And then Annabelle wants her not to walk around alone and that she's in danger. Quote, we all are. She then, ironically, leaves her on her own, and leaves her room, bumps into Lance in the corridor, and they go to his room, and this scene plays.
You were with the young girl in the cellar. Why was she so upset?
Was she?
And you don't look like the type to go around bumping his head. What really happened, Lance?
Well, Nora thought she saw a ghost, but I didn't see anything.
She was just frightened.
And mad at me, I think. I kidded her about it.
I wouldn't joke about anything else that happens here tonight.
Now, don't tell me you're taking all this seriously.
Aren't you?
Well, I'd like to find out what hit me.
Lance,
Mm.
if I need help, may I count on you?
Yeah, sure, I guess so. Look, what's going on here anyway? I mean, what is with this party bit?
This is no party. He's planning something.
Your husband?
I wish I knew what it was.
Must be pretty big if he's going to lay out 50,000.
The money doesn't mean anything. He has a reason for getting us all up here to this dreadful old house.
Well, what for? He doesn't even know us.
Maybe that's exactly why you're here.
Well, what can he get away with?
Oh, he thinks that big money like his can get away with anything. You know, of course, that I'm his fourth wife. The first simply disappeared. The other two died. Lance, I don't want to join them.
You mean he,
Oh, his doctor said they died of heart attacks. 2 girls in their 20s.
Well, what can he do?
My husband is sometimes insane with jealousy. Nothing matters to him then. Please be careful.
Would he hurt you?
He would kill me if he could.
Why would you marry someone like that? I mean, the money isn't worth it. Run. Good job he just stood there still, isn't it?
Annabelle, you're missing all the fun. Nora Manning was almost killed by a falling chandelier. The pilot bashed his head in.
Is he badly hurt?
The Saturnine psychiatrist bandaged him up. Don't you want to go and console him, as you do most men, in your fashion?
You're so clever, Frederick.
As I lie awake nights wondering why I married you. It was rather a mistake.
You
You didn't marry me, dear. I married you. Unpleasant, but no mistake.
Hurry up.
Frederick, for the last time, I'm not going to your party.
And for the last time, it's not my party, but yours. And you are going.
I am not.
You ready, dear?
No.
Are you ready, dear?
Yes, damn you.
Would you adore me as much if I were poor? No. All you want to be is a lovely widow. It's almost time to lock up the house. And then your party will really begin. I wonder how it'll end.
Okay, so that's the end of part 1. Thank you very much for watching this far if you have. I really appreciate it. Part 2, I will leave a link in the description. I can't thank you enough if you watched all this way. So, yeah, you're awesome. Stay cool, stay safe, and hopefully I'll see you in part 2.